Lesson 21, under Principle number 1, there are new set of reform. First is advantage. It's represented by A stroke and V stroke. Second is the suggest. It's represented by right S, OO, and G stroke. Third is the several, represented by right S, E, and V stroke. Next is out. It's represented by A and OO stroke. Fifth, next brief form is ever and every. It's represented by E stroke and V stroke. The last is very. It's represented by V and E stroke. Number 2, we have the 10. By rounding off the angle between T and N. 10 blend. We obtain the fluent. Number 1 example is the 10, which represented by TN and D. Second, a 10, represented by A, mix of T and D. Next is attention, which represented by A stroke, TN, and E stroke. Next is tentative, which represented by TN, TA, T, and V stroke. Next is potential, which represented by P, O, TN, and each stroke. Next is stand, which represented by right S, TN, and D stroke. Principle number 3, the then stroke. The stroke that represents TN also represents by the D and N stroke. First example is denied, which represented by DN and the broken eye. Second is the dentist, which represented by DN, T, E, left S, and T stroke. Next is sudden, which represented by right S, the OO, and D N stroke. Next, condense, which represented by K, DN, and left S stroke. Next is the evidence. E, V, DN, and left S stroke. Last is the dinner, which represented by DN stroke and the R stroke.
Today, we will discuss lesson number 22 under principle number 1, 10. By rounding off the angle between T and M, we obtain the fluent TEM blend. Example number 1, temper, is represented by TEM, P, and R. Next, temporary is represented by TEM, P, R, system is represented by joint S and TEM. Next, attempt is represented by A, TEM, and T. Next, item is represented by broken I and them. Next, estimate is represented by E, comma S, them, A, and T. And these are the principle number 1, them. Principle number 2, them. The stroke that represents TM also represents DM. Example number 1, seldom is represented by left S, E, L, DM. Next, freedom is represented by F, R, E, DM. These strokes of freedom is not correct because there is no angle between F and R stroke. It should be like this: F, R, E, and DM. Next, random is represented by R, A, N, and DOM. Next, damage is represented by DM and J. Next, medium is represented by M, E, DM. These are the principle number 2, them. Number 3, business abbreviation. Here are additional salutations and closings often used in business letters. Example number 1, dear Mrs. is represented by DM, R, and left S. Next, dear Mr. is represented by DM and R. Next, dear Miss is represented by DM, E, and right S. Next, dear Miss is represented by DM and left S. Next, cordially yours is represented by K and OO. Next, yours sincerely is represented by OO, S, E, and N. And these are The principle number 3, business abbreviations. Principle number 4, useful phrases. With the 10 and 10 blends, we can form 3 very useful phrases. Example number 1, to know, is represented by T, M, and O. Next, to meet, is represented by T, M, and E. Next, to make, is represented by T, M, A, and K. And these are under principle number 4, useful phrases. Principle number 5, days of the week. Sample number 1, Sunday is represented by right S and N. Next, Monday is represented by M, O, and N. Next, Monday is represented by M, O, and N. Next, Tuesday is represented by T, O without an angle, and S. Next, Wednesday is represented by O, E, N, and left S. Next, Thursday is represented by under ITH, R, and left S. Next, Friday is represented by F, R, and broken I. Next, Saturday is represented by S, A, and T. And these are under principle number 5, days of the week. Principle number 6, months of the year. You are already familiar with the shorthand forms for several of the months as they are written in full. Here are all 12 months. Example number 1, January is represented by J, A, and N. Next, February is represented by F, E, and B. Next, March is represented by M, A, R, and J. Next, April is represented by A, P, R, E, and L. Next, May is represented by M, A. Next is June. It's represented by J, O, and N. Next, July is represented by J, O, L, and broken I. Next, August is represented by O and G. Next, September is represented by S, E, and P. Next, October is represented by O, K, and T. Next, November is represented by N, O, and V. Next is December is represented by D, E, and S. And these are the principal number 6 months of the year.